Hello, Super Boothers. We're up for a podcast award and we need your nominations. Go to superboothers.com and click the main banner that says nominate us. Sign up, verify your email, select Super Boothers for Business Podcast and People's Choice Podcasts, and click save. Thanks so much for listening. Hello and welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail. And I think today we're going to discuss something that started in our Facebook group. I put a post up about something that I was kind of considering and trying to decide about, and it turned into a big engaging conversation. So for those of you who are not in our Facebook group, I definitely suggest you head on over and join the group. That's where a lot of interesting conversations happen and a lot of ideas for the show come from. So definitely join the group. But this one,
Facebook.com/groups/superboothers.
Thank you. That sounded very professional.
It's what I do.
So Ryan, I know you didn't get that active in this conversation because I don't know if it applies to you that much.
And I was at Disney World, so I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. But I figured I'd kind of shoot the breeze with you about this. Basically, the greater, topic is about optimizing your resources, your equipment, right? So one thing I've noticed is that I started with an enclosed booth when I first started the business.
Now, whenever you say enclosed booth, do you mean like one that you sit in and pull the curtain, or one that's like a tent?
It was one that you sit in, but it's a canopy tent. So
it's a tent.
It's a canopy tent, yes.
It's a tent. Continue.
So I started with that booth.
Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. It's a tent.
I started with that booth, right? So there's a little bit of a nostalgic value to it, I guess, that you began with that. It worked well enough that you graduated into other things. But I've noticed for me, the frequency that the enclosed booth is booked has kind of dramatically decreased over the last couple of years. So, and to be honest with you, I don't know if it's because I push the open booths more, or people just want it more. I just noticed that it's a huge shift. So the open booths are booked way more, and they're a lot easier for me to work with. So basically, the thing that I was trying to decide is, can we get rid of these enclosed booths, first of all? Is it like just evaluating that decision? Should I get rid of the enclosed booth because they're bulky and annoying, and maybe get something else that I can, like an inflatable, that I can use with my open booth so that I can have the best of both worlds? I'll stop there and see what you have to say and let you chime in.
I'm probably going to offend people, which I have no problem with. So here's the thing. Whenever I was in Houston, first of all, Houston is muggy. It's humid. It's disgusting. That's just kind of how the weather is. So whenever I was there, I had a tent booth. After a while, they just kind of start smelling. They're hot. They're stuffy. I mean, it's kind of horrible. I mean, I really don't enjoy it.
That's definitely true, that it does get warmer in the enclosure, 100%. But do people ask you for enclosures ever?
I think I have been asked specifically for an enclosed booth maybe twice. I say, no, we don't have it. Here's why.
What do you say for why?
I mean, that's, I guess, a sales thing is I can sell for or against it. So if I did have an enclosed booth and I didn't have an open booth and I was trying to push the enclosed booth more, I would say, oh, there's more privacy. Oh, it's a better quality. The customer is really up close to the photo, la, la, la. For the opposite end, I would say, oh, we can fit more people in an open booth. Yeah, or, yep. We can do like far more things with it. Truthfully, people do disgusting things in enclosed spaces. I have done this long enough to be able to say that confidently. I won't post any photos, just know.
I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. That's kind of how I break it down for people too. Is that the enclosed is a little bit more privacy, but it fits less people, right? The open, not as much privacy, but it fits large groups, and it serves as like an attraction where people see a lot of action at the open booth, and it draws people in. Um, so I'm really toying with the idea of getting rid of all the enclosed booths and going 100% into the
If you would
open.
like to
I
buy
was
one
just,
of Ismail's enclosed booths, they are for sale at superboothers.com.
but I guess I was kind of considering, is it worth getting an enclosure for our open booths just so I have that in my back pocket to say, hey, if you do want an enclosure, we still do have that.
I would wait till someone actually asks for it and then buy it, and you'll find that you probably won't buy it.
That's a good point. I mean, and this is the cool thing in that conversation on the Facebook group that people are bringing up, that some people, really interesting, they saw that everyone is doing open booths now, and they went all in on enclosed. And I think that's something we talk about on the show, where you find a niche and you just go all in on it. And they seemed like it was working well for them. Honestly, for me, and a lot of people shared with this feeling as well, is that it's just a lot more annoying dealing with the enclosed booth.
I don't
And I
think
kind
it's
of,
worth the trouble.
yeah, yeah. And I think when I'm thinking about the inflatable, or you got to like have a pump that pumps it up, that keeps it pumped. There's all that extra noise. I mean, you got to deflate it at the end. You got to roll it up. And it sounds like it's not a big deal. And the people who have it tell me, oh, it's not that bad. But when someone says, it's not that bad, it's pretty bad. It's like you see them struggling to put it in the bag. It's just a whole thing that, do I want to deal with
I
that?
don't. No, thank you. But no. I love waking up from my hotel room, taking two bags that I can put on my shoulders, ride the subway into the city, do my event with Oprah, and go back to the hotel. I mean, I cannot see me going through all that trouble to set up that stuff. I just wouldn't.
And someone mentioned something interesting too, where they did a lot of market intel in their area and talked to a lot of brides, and they found that these target customers of theirs really just did not prefer the enclosed booth or the inflatable booth's appearance, right? So I guess my question, maybe Ryan, is how much emphasis do you put on what is easier for you, like you just said with your booth? It's easy. You wake up from the hotel room and whatever, versus
Do the
what the
event with Oprah.
versus what the market wants. How do you balance those?
First of all, I'm the one that has to do it. So I think that that's my priority is I'm going to make sure that what is good for what works for me will also work for my clients and then just sell it towards that effect, I guess. So, for example, again, this is also really, we design for the market, we don't design for ourselves. Um, and what I mean by that is like with decor, one of my friends hates doing yellow weddings, absolutely hates it. Yet she lives in a market where every other wedding is white and yellow. I have no idea why that is. And yet she never puts it out there, but yet it just comes back to her. I don't know how that works. But what I'm saying here is I would most likely do things that are more convenient for me because I'm the one setting up, I'm the one having to do it. And if I go through all this trouble, I'm out of breath, I'm annoyed that I had to set this thing up, I'm not going to be happy for my clients. Like it's really going to show like in the face, you know?
That's interesting, because there's kind of two schools of thought in the business world, where some companies say the emphasis is on, well, there's three. Some people say number one in priority is stockholders, right? And the other two camps are divided between, hey, the number one priority is the customer, while someone else says the number one priority is the employees, because of what you just said. If the employees are happy, they're well taken care of, they're comfortable, then it will lead to better service for the client. So I guess there's no
Sure.
right or wrong answer. It's just a personal preference that you have to think about for your business.
I just think that as long as you're not, again, that was another big thing is whenever iPad Boost came out, if I heard another email come in through that said, but the quality, I mean,
We get a lot of those emails.
Oh my god, who gives a crap? This is the thing is once you stop, because trust me, I was there. I was there. There was a time, even back when I was a florist, you would kind of see things like, oh, I would do all my stuff in glass. And there's actually like plastic versions that look like metal, but they're cheaper. So, whatever you sacrifice on quality, are you really sacrificing on the look? So, the same thing goes with us. Are we sacrificing quality if we get rid of a DSLR? When iPads can really have cameras that are just comparable. I mean, it's kind of choosing those things that are they really like that huge of a difference? Is everyone going to see that? One of my friends that's a florist, we always kind of commented on when is it okay to do fake flowers at a wedding? And really, the answer is if they can't touch it. So, for example, whenever we would do like floral chandeliers of like stuff like hanging, if the client can't touch it and know that it's not real, but it looks real, we're kind of fine with that because it's also a safety issue at that point. If that thing comes crashing down, I'd much rather have, fake flowers come crashing down on me than real flowers that are attached to cages with a lot of water on it. So it's just kind of like determining at what point does the quality get sacrificed, I guess, versus.
So this reminds me of an anecdote that I don't know if I've mentioned before on the show, but I'm going to try to think of it on the spot. There's this airline a while back, I forgot which airline it was, that was trying to identify operational efficiencies and basically trying to save money somewhere because they were bleeding cash. And they brought this consultant in and said, figure out a way for us to save money. And basically, through his research and analysis, he found a way to save them millions of dollars without affecting the customer experience, right? And you'd be surprised at what he found. It was basically looking at their lunch option. I think it was salad. So their salads included some, I forgot the exact item, but it was like 3 olives in each serving of salad on the plane. And he surveyed customers, he tested it, and he realized if you cut it down to 2 olives, there's no impact on the enjoyment of the meal that the customer had. So basically, that extra olive was pointless. And it was a huge airline. They do tons and tons of flights. And I may be getting the numbers totally wrong, but you get the. It was something where over the course of a decade or whatever, it ended up saving them a substantial amount of money. Um, Again, I'm going off the top of my head, but you get the point by just removing the olive. And it goes to what you just said, right? Is it better to have 3 olives? Yeah, it is. But no one's going to realize it if it's three
Tell me this is like
or
a
two.
$1 million
And
olive.
by having two, you save money and you keep the customer just as happy. And I think this is along the lines of the quality. Like, oh, but the quality, like you said, do people really realize a 2 megapixel difference? Right? They don't.
No.
So sometimes,
I was buying a TV and they're like, "Oh, you can see retina display, blah blah blah." I was like, "I don't have good enough vision to see this retina display. I can't see that."
yeah, I mean, I guess for them it matters enough because they make a ton of money on that. But there's definitely instances like this where you have to
Like I'm going to see 6,000 colors. I can barely tell the difference of 10.
kind of weigh these things and determine what's really worth it. And I think the best way to find out is talk to your customers, see what they like. I show them the quality of the different. Like I actually show them and let them pick what they want. And because of all that experience in Intel, it gets you to a point where now I realize, hey, do I really even need this enclosed booth? They don't seem to prefer it. The data never lies. So I guess Ryan, what do you see happening going forward? Because it was a huge shift away from enclosed. Do you think it's going to continue? Or do you think there's going to always be a big place for the classic enclosed? What's your thoughts?
You know, there's a place for everything. I mean, for me, it's in the garbage. But I mean, there's always going to be someone that wants an enclosed booth. And if you're the one that is able to provide it, good for you. I mean, that's just kind of what it boils down to. There are times where, I had a client that was looking for an Airstream trailer. I'm clearly not going to do that. I mean, that's just not my gig. I don't live in Austin. I don't. I don't live in Portland. It's just not my gig, you know. But that doesn't mean that there's not a place for it in the market. So if you want to like have like, you know, a regular 2-seater enclosed booth, has a red curtain, has a blue curtain. Hell, if you want to have one that still, you know, uses chemicals, and if it smell like rotten eggs all day at your event, by all means go for it. Own it. I'm sure there's a spot for it, and I'm sure there's someone that would pay top dollar for it.
It seems like you're prioritizing what's better for you, right? But keep in mind the reason you're able to do that is because you have enough work. So I guess I would tell listeners you gotta look at the data, listen to the market, and then also factor in what do you want to do, right? Because at the end of the day, like Ryan said, you're the one doing it. You have to enjoy it, prefer it, so that you give the client a better service. But yeah, this was something that was on my mind because I'm kind of trying to think of operational efficiencies and how to. I like flexibility, basically in all aspects of my life, and to me, it was maybe a little appealing to have an open booth that can also be an enclosed booth. It's like multifunctional. But I wonder, like you said, maybe I don't even need the enclosure. Maybe if someone asks for it, I consider it then.
Didn't you also post a thing about overthinking things?
You know what? It's funny because I knew you were thinking that. I was going to ask you.
I was pulling out the receipts.
I love that video. I don't know, it made me crack up. Check if you want to see it. Check it out in our Facebook group. Basically, it was a funny clip about overthinking, and I think when I talk about these things with Ryan, he always feels that I overthink and overanalyze this stuff.
For
Is
sure.
that true? Yeah.
Absolutely. Just
But
move on.
wouldn't you rather overthink it than underthink it? I
No.
mean, come on.
No. Didn't we just have literally an episode about like the general that just made the decision and was like, at least we're doing something and not talking about it? At least we
Wow,
can like go and fix it.
You are pulling the receipts at me.
You have no idea.
Well, what about other? Do you do anything else like in terms of operational efficiencies to like? Is there anything else that you do in terms of that? Like for example, I remember one time we were talking about how you automatically upload pictures to Dropbox, so you don't have to deal with that step. Is there anything else where you make things easier for yourself, like you said, because that's your priority?
I'm the laziest person in the room. If I can eliminate one step, I will do it. Like, and literally, if it costs me money, I do not care.
There's a cool tool that I think you use as well that helps with a lot of that stuff. It's called Zapier. Is that how you pronounce it?
Zapier and IFTTT.
Yes, if this, then that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those are tools that people use to eliminate a lot of steps to make their lives easier. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it basically connects different apps and different stuff, so you don't have to do things manually.
And they don't even have to talk to one another.
Right. Is there a specific example that you use that's really helpful that people can try?
Tons. I literally do it for literally everything. Like there is not one part of my business that isn't connected to Zapier or IFTTT.
Is there anything specific, like a very simple example, so people can wrap their mind around what it does?
So, yeah. So in my sales process, let's say that a lead has emailed me and said, hey, I want a photo booth on this date. What I do is, and if they agree to text messages, I will put that information into my CRM saying it's okay to send them a text message, and I'll send them their initial email. Whenever they do that, it goes into my 7 follow-up emails, which is available on ryansalinas.com/courses for purchase. And it's the system that I use that follows up with people. So on day 3, it sends them something. On day 5, it sends them something. On day 7, sends them something. 9 sends them something. 11, 15, whatever. People ask me, when do you stop sending them emails? When they tell me to stop or when their event happens. That's generally how follow-ups work. I actually had a follow-up email go out 60 days after they initially requested information, and they booked it. It is just the persistent bird gets the worm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stats on that where the majority of sales happen after like 5
Sure.
contact
So that's
points.
kind of something that happens here. So if they agree to text messages, I will send them a text message. Hey, did you forget about us? Hey, do you want to design your own, photo booth template? Hey, whatever. So all that's connected to my booking software. So that goes to Twilio. Twilio goes to Zapier. Zapier goes to an SMS platform. And then that gets sent out to the customer, and I don't even have to do anything. For example, whenever someone sends a deposit, that the way how that works is that goes from, I guess an email sends the trigger. It goes to a specific email. That email goes to my Hue light system and turns the lights green in my office. So whenever there's light turning green, I know that I made money. Same
That's the example I was waiting for.
Same thing. And this is another thing that I really appreciate. So if you're working and you're kind of like, just focusing and doing this little business, what I like to do is whenever a lead comes in, I have it again go through it's a text message, it's a Hue light system, blah blah blah. The light out of the corner of my right eye, it's like a large uplight. I have it blink whenever a lead comes in, because that's a visual cue for me. Because you could see that an email pop up and you're not going to pay attention to it, but a light in my office I will recognize faster. And actually sometimes the light goes off before the email comes in. So I'll see the light flash and I know, hey, a lead came in. I'll go in, put the lead in the system real quick, send it out. Because I know that if you the faster you contact that person within 24 hours, the more likely you are to book them.
What happens when you go to a club and there's lights flashing and green lights? Like, do you get confused?
I don't go to clubs. That's like you in a club. It's just not going to happen. I could just see you like in a club. Yes. Like, no, that's just not going to happen for you.
That's not the kind of club that I go to. But
I beg to differ. I have photos. Please do not let me air your dirty laundry and ruin your marriage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Ryan Salinas is telling you to get rid of your enclosed booth for the betterment.
I said no such thing.
I'm not trying to start a controversy. I'm just telling people, I'm summing up your message. Get rid of the enclosed booth, basically.
Don't pay attention to him. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening. Please, 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 please don't forget to nominate us for a podcast award. Go to superboothers.com, click on the main banner, sign up, verify your email, and select Superboothers for business and for people's choice. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next week.